Now, disturbing new details have emerged about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, of course, formerly known as Prince Andrew, and of course, Sarah Ferguson's bizarre final days in the Royal Lodge. Can you talk to us about how the Duke and Duchess of York, or former Duke and Duchess of York, I should say,
takes a minute to get used to that.
It does, doesn't it? How are they coping with this new reality?
Yeah, you know, the reports about Fergie and Andrew's sort of days in Royal Lodge, we know that they're on the way out. They will be expected to leave the property in the coming months. At the moment.
But don't try and trick me now, because I'm not going to play this game. Delete that bit. John, can you just delete it?
There are moments on the internet when time just stops, not because something sweet happened, not because a celebrity posted a new picture, but because a bomb dropped so loud, so unexpected, so brutally precise that every corner of the online world freezes and stares. That's exactly what happened the night Sarah Ferguson went live. And when I say went live, I don't mean a cute little QA or a soft-spoken charity message. No. This was a woman sitting there with the kind of expression you only see on people who have carried secrets too big, too heavy, too poisonous for way too long. She adjusted her glasses, leaned slightly forward, and you could almost feel the collective inhale across the internet.
But don't try and trick me
because
now,
everyone
I'm not
knew
going to play this
she
game.
wasn't there to
Delete that
gossip.
bit. John, can you just delete it?
She was there to detonate, and the target? Meghan Markle. The modern-day fairy tale girl whose entire brand, her whole existence in the public eye, is built like a shiny glass tower of self-pity, selective storytelling, and carefully packaged victimhood. The same woman who rose from near obscurity to the center of royal conversations almost overnight, carrying with her a smile crafted for cameras and a narrative designed to pull sympathy like magnets. But Fergie didn't smile. She didn't soften her voice. She didn't dress the moment with polite aristocratic filters. Instead, she said 11 words that sliced through the atmosphere like a blade. I think it's time the world knows who Meghan Markle really is. Not my opinion. Not my perspective. Not some stories I've heard. No. She spoke like someone who had receipts, who'd lived the chaos, who'd watched the lies pile up while the world applauded Markle's carefully crafted sob stories. And then, she brought up the yachts. The chat exploded instantly because the internet has the reflexes of a trained attack dog when it hears certain words: yacht, scandal, prince, secret, past, exposed. That combination is too tempting, too spicy, too drenched in possibility. But Fergie didn't react to the comments. She stayed focused, her voice steady in that unnerving way someone sounds when they've been rehearsing the truth for years, waiting for the right moment to finally let it fly. She began painting this picture, not dramatic, not exaggerated, not flavored for entertainment, just brutally straightforward. The summers Markle spent drifting across Mediterranean waters on private luxury tours, always as a guest, always for networking, always with the unspoken understanding that the people on board were not casual vacationers. These were power brokers, financiers, influencers, aristocrats. And of course, Prince Andrew, long before he was the man the public thinks they know today. According to Fergie, those yacht nights weren't glamorous fairy tale evenings lit by moonlight and scented with ocean breeze. They were curated environments, political playgrounds where alliances were formed with a smile, where money moved like whispered promises, where young social climbers pushed their way into rooms they had no business being in. Unless they were strategically placed there, and Markle? She wasn't placed. She fought her way in, deliberately, strategically, brilliantly, and yes, manipulatively. Fergie described watching her, observing the subtle ways she slipped between conversations, offering charm like candy, aligning herself with whoever had the most influence at any given moment. She talked about nights when Meghan would disappear with Prince Andrew for hours on deck, coming back with smudged lipstick and the sort of triumphant glow that convinced everyone she had learned, gained, or secured something important. Not love. Not romance. Something far colder, leverage. Fergie didn't say it in a bitter tone. She didn't sound jealous or resentful. She sounded tired of watching a woman rewrite her past into a sanitized biography where she was this fragile outsider stumbling into royal life like a lost lamb. Tired of seeing Meghan pretend she was inexperienced, clueless, oppressed. Because according to Fergie, Meghan was none of those things. She wasn't innocent, Fergie said flatly. She was calculating. She saw opportunities before anyone else noticed them on the horizon. The internet was eating out of her hands at this point, some shocked, some delighted, some outraged, some defending Meghan with the devotion of cult followers. But Fergie didn't care. She didn't look at the comments once. Instead, she reached beside her, lifted a thin folder, not thick, not theatrical, and said something that made my whole spine tighten: "This is just the beginning." You know when someone says a line that sounds like the opening scene of a political thriller? That was the moment. Because she wasn't waving the folder like a prop. She handled it like evidence. Like proof. Like she had waited years to finally be able to hold it up on camera and say, "Now you will understand everything I've been keeping quiet." But more than the documents, more than the dates and logs and photographs she hinted at, the power came from her clarity. Her certainty. Her absolute refusal to decorate her words with emotion. Fergie wasn't trying to destroy Meghan. She wasn't trying to humiliate her. She was trying to correct the record after years of watching Meghan weaponize half-truths, omissions, dramatizations, and public empathy to craft a brand built entirely on distortion, and with every sentence Fergie dropped, you could feel the ground shift beneath Meghan Markle's carefully managed public persona, that polished image she'd built for interviews, documentaries, speeches, social media monologues, and memoir-style confessions. It was crumbling. Layer by layer. And Fergie hadn't even opened the folder yet. She started with a yacht log, just a simple scan of an entry from years ago, but it was the kind of item you couldn't fake unless you had access to the right circles and the right archives. A date, a list of guests, a short note scribbled by a yacht coordinator: M. Markle joined unexpectedly, Prince A. approved. It was a tiny line, almost insignificant in the grand scheme of the night, but the implications spread like wildfire. Fergie didn't shove it at the camera. She didn't scream, "See? I told you." She simply held it, steady as stone, and said calmly, she wasn't invited. She maneuvered her way in. And instantly you felt something shift in the story of Meghan Markle, the pristine, polished narrative of the poor innocent woman who accidentally fell into royal life because destiny chose her. Fergie was showing the world something else entirely, a woman who pushed open doors that were closed. Who inserted herself into spaces she knew were valuable, who understood the importance of proximity, especially to Prince Andrew. She knew exactly who Andrew was before he ever knew who she was, Fergie said, flipping to another document. She studied him. She studied his relationships. She studied the cracks in his world and learned exactly where to position herself. It wasn't said with cruelty, it was said like a woman who'd spent years biting her tongue while watching the world worship a version of a person that wasn't real. And you could tell it exhausted her, not because she hated Meghan, but because she despised dishonesty dressed up as victimhood. She moved on to the next page, a printed email thread between a yacht staff coordinator and a private security liaison. Names blurred out, except for two, M. Markle and Prince Andrew. The subject line alone was enough to send the live chat into meltdown. Tonight's arrangements, private deck reserved. The comments were spiraling at this point. OMG. Wait, what, she lied to everyone. Private deck for what though? But Fergie didn't comment on the speculation. She just let the information hang in the air, heavy and undeniable. And then, she dropped the emotional punch nobody expected. She leaned back slightly, took a breath, and said, "You want the truth? Andrew wasn't in love. He was lost. And Meghan saw that and used it. Let me tell you, the internet does not handle that kind of sentence lightly." From the perspective of someone who's watched years of curated romance narratives built around Meghan and Prince Andrew, those words hit like a weapon. Because suddenly the entire fairy tale aesthetic the public had been fed, the dreamy glances, the destined connection, the whirlwind perfection, cracked open like a cheap ornament. Fergie explained it quietly, almost reluctantly, like she hated the memories she was pulling up. Andrew was going through one of the darkest periods of his life at the time, the kind of emotional vulnerability most people would protect, not exploit. And Meghan, according to Fergie, slid into that gap like someone who had studied the architecture of a broken heart. She made herself indispensable, Fergie continued. She didn't just comfort him, she mirrored him. She created problems for him to fix, then praised him for fixing them. She made him feel chosen. Needed. Heroic. Do you understand what that does to a lonely man? It was chilling. Because it wasn't framed as gossip or insider tea, it was framed like someone who had watched the manipulation unfold in real time. Powerless to stop it, knowing one day the consequences would be catastrophic, then came the part that hit the hardest, the change in Andrew himself. Fergie talked about how Andrew, once stable and grounded, began drifting away from family, advisors, scheduled commitments, even from traditions he had honored for years. She described private moments where Andrew would skip important assemblies just to meet Meghan at private lounges and harbors, sometimes arranged last minute, sometimes arranged behind everyone's back. Meghan had him wrapped, she said, snapping her fingers lightly.
It's a financial arrangement. We know that the royal family is negotiating with Andrew about some kind of financial settlement because, of course, he did have that binding lease agreement that was able to kind of keep him there for so long. Now that that's off the table, he will be expected to leave. In the meantime, we know that Andrew and Fergie are still in the house, and some of the details, you know, it's a little bit Greek tragedy. It's almost a little bit like a Tennessee Williams character, especially when it comes to Fergie. We're hearing reports that she's taking it hard. I think that her identity was tied up in being Duchess of York. She had that title since her wedding day, and the loss of it allegedly was just devastated her. She supposedly has been relying heavily on the staff at Royal Lodge. There's also supposedly this kind of private bar area set up on the property called the Doghouse, of all things. And apparently that's where she's hanging out. She's really hitting the bar, and she's expecting the staff to kind of commiserate with her. And you know, I'm sure there is a level of sympathy. I think this has been a tough time for her. But I think at the end of the day, the reason that she's in this predicament and the reason that Andrew's in this predicament is because of their actions and their associations with Epstein. And like the royal family really kind of emphasised in that most recent statement, it's all about really the victims of Epstein. It's not about Andrew and Fergie. You know, I think we can all kind of have a level of sympathy that maybe that they're going through a lot of change, but that's nothing compared to what the victims of Epstein have went through. And really, they're getting their comeuppance.
Yeah. Now, Princess Beatrice has continued her charity work as a royal patron despite her parents' scandals. Is this a sign that Beatrice is still in the inner circle?
Yeah, you know, I think that Beatrice is probably taking a page from her grandmother, the Queen's book, which is to never explain, never complain.